You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Didn't you coach Burt Reynolds?
Yes, I did.
Was he any good?
He was a defensive back.
I know. Was he any good? I said.
103.9 FM LI News Radio presents The Weekend Crunch with Errol Marks and Josh Silverberg.
Welcome to another show of The Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Errol Marks, and my co-host, Joshua Silverberg. And on the board, as always, Mr. Tidy Whitey himself, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network, brought to you by New York Sports Scene Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am back from my neck surgery, and if anybody doesn't know, I had disc replacement surgery in my C6, and I will say this, I don't wish it upon anybody. Being home for a week, I'm going to be home for quite a few weeks because of this injury, and trying to get back to normal strength and figuring things out. Even when I had the surgery, trying to walk in the hospital, trying to grasp, I felt like I was on stilts. That's what I felt like I was on. It was really definitely amusing to watch me walk down the hallways of the beautiful LIJ. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to LIJ, Valley Stream. They did a very, very good job taking care of me. I had no sleep, but they gave me my own room. I had so many nice dinners, lunches, and breakfasts. So I really enjoyed being there, even though I had no sleep. But I'm happy to be here. I know I listened to the show last week. I got a chance to see Speedy Petey in action and you leading the show, Josh. But very interesting show. I do miss you guys. I did miss you guys. And I'm very, very happy to be back in the studios with you guys. So how are you, Josh? How was your week?
It was good, man. I'm glad you're doing well. We missed you, too. Speedy did a great job, but, of course, when you're here, the volume always goes up, which makes always the show that much more intriguing and much more fun. And I'm glad you're doing well and feeling good and healthy, and glad you're back.
No, you're not. You're definitely not glad that I'm back.
No, of course I am. Why wouldn't I be, dude? You gave me this opportunity. Of course, I'm so appreciative of everything you've done. And I can also attest to what Errol said. I had neck fusion in my C5, C6, and I was in a hospital for a week and a half.
I'm tearing, man. I am absolutely crying. Look at that. I'm getting compliments by Joshua Silverberg. This is a trophy-winning day for me.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Write it in your diary.
Well, I will. I will place it in my diary and remember it forever. Because
no, you won't, because you'll probably forget in 2 seconds. But that's okay.
Well, I will say
Errol
this.
has to admit he gets to keep a diary.
Well, that's
I'm
true.
glad you're back, though, man. I'm glad you're healthy, and that's the important thing.
I will say this. I had lost my voice for about a day and a half, and it was definitely something scary. Again, having the surgery, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Faust, my doctor from Orland and Cohen. He did a fabulous job. He did he actually told me that this was a very clean surgery, which is something that you don't really hear when you have disc replacement, because he usually tells me that he goes in blind, depending on the neck size and the width of the neck. You don't really get an opportunity to see straight through all the way back to the spine. And he told me it was a very clean surgery. So I was very happy to hear that by Dr. Faust. So I want to give a shout out to Orland and Cohen. I'm going to give a shout out to Dr. Faust, the great job that he did taking care of me in the hospital. LIJ Valley Stream did a very, very nice job. And the food was excellent. Who would possibly say that hospital food is good? Well, the great Errol Marks says the hospital food was delicious. I had meatloaf, I had mashed potatoes, I had macaroni and cheese, and the macaroni and cheese was fabulous, by the way. Unbelievable. So one of the best macaroni and cheese platters I've ever had. So there you go.
From a
so
hospital. Wow.
Yes. So if you ever want to go to a hospital,
the restaurant,
absolutely better than the restaurant. I have to say it was great food, and I give an A+ to the LIJ, beautiful hospital over there in Valley Stream. Anyways, we have a lot of sports to talk about today. We're going to talk about free agency in the NFL, the New York Jets making big moves, the Giants trying to make big moves, the Dallas Cowboys not making enough big moves, and obviously the New England Patriots doing everything and
making all kinds of moves.
Yeah, and making moves that don't make any sense. But we will get into that in just a few moments. But the real story right now in the NFL is Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson, he's been the big talk of the town for the New York Jets. We've heard stories with the Bears, the Carolina Panthers, the Miami Dolphins. Practically everybody has that name, Deshaun Watson, going through their tongues, their mouths. And I don't know if Deshaun Watson's name is going to appear on anybody's mouths anytime soon. And the Texans really sitting back and deciding to hold on to Deshaun Watson is probably thinking they should have made that move when they had the opportunity, because a story came out that Deshaun Watson was accused of a sexual assault, and it was from his massage therapist, and she claimed that he touched her the wrong way. It is such an interesting story because now 12 women have come out and said that Deshaun Watson has sexually harassed them in some kind of way. And I know when you hear these stories, everybody's thinking, oh, these girls want money. It's all about money. But there has to be some kind of truth to it, because if one of these ladies, lawyers, reach out to his lawyer 24 hours before they said they're going to go public if he doesn't open up his pockets, and Deshaun Watson says, I'm not opening my pockets. Why the hell am I opening up my pockets? I never did anything. And then this spreads like a wildfire. And for somebody like Deshaun Watson, who has a no-trade clause, that wants out of Houston, comes out and not pay one of these women to keep their mouths shut. Now all of a sudden it spreads like a wildfire. There's 12 women that come out, and maybe those 12 women probably wouldn't have came out of the weeds if he actually opened up his pockets to the first one. And I remember Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant fell in this same situation. Kobe Bryant, a superstar player, played for the LA Lakers, those championship Lakers. I guess he was on vacation. He was in Colorado. He was playing Denver, and he was in a hotel, and he slept, and he cheated on his wife, and supposedly he raped this girl. Now, obviously went to court. He never got accused for rape, or he never got charged for rape, maybe because he paid the girl off. But there was a proven story that there was all different semens in her underwear when they were investigating the story, when the cops were investigating the story. So he actually didn't rape her, but he did pay her off to get her away. So you think of that story, you think of Deshaun Watson. You have two superstar players, Deshaun Watson, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Kobe Bryant, who is one of the best players in the league. If you kind of match these stories up, they match up very, very well. But Kobe Bryant opened up his pockets, and Deshaun Watson says, you know what? I don't care if I'm making $145 million. I don't care if I got a big contract. I don't care if I want out of Houston. I am not paying these girls nada. Now, all of a sudden, this is going to spread like a wildfire to a lot of these teams, a.k.a. the New York Jets. And if I were the New York Jets right now, Josh, I would not touch Deshaun Watson moving forward.
No, absolutely not. I would stay as far away as you possibly can. I'm wondering if this has something to do with the owner of the Texans too, maybe spreading some blackmail as well. I don't see why the owner would do that, because that's hurting his trade value. They should have traded him a long time ago, because that big, ginormous package they were going to get is no longer happening. That's done. It's gone. That has to be out the door. I did read that the Carolina Panthers are still interested in him.
Of course they are.
Only the Dolphins, I think, are done. I mean, when you sign a Jacoby Brissett, that kind of sets that Tua is going to be there as their starter, and he'll learn under Brissett. I think the Jets are going to stay away, because this is the last thing the New York Jets need. They're just starting to get their feet wet in regards to getting things right. I think you don't need this kind of public intoxication of the New York media being all over this. It's the last thing you need.
They're already all over it. They're already all over it.
They're already all over it. Imagine
Newsday, Daily Post, Bleacher Report.
Imagine if the Jets traded for him. If the Jets traded for him a month ago and this came out, oh my God. Joe Douglas could be in a lot of trouble for making this trade then. And then you got like the Chicago Bears. They're another team, the 49ers. I don't think they're going to do it. It's a mess. And the package that the Texans thought they were going to get is over. It's done with.
I think it's so interesting because I like Deshaun Watson as a quarterback. I still think he's one of the best, most talented quarterbacks in the NFL right now. You can argue that he could be the best quarterback in the NFL. But now you're hearing this story, and if there's any truth to this story, which it's hard to believe that there isn't truth to the story, because you have 12 women coming out and speaking, and all 12 women have been around Deshaun Watson. Now, again, it could be blackmail. It could be somebody throwing Deshaun Watson under the bus because of the whole Houston Texans scenario. But I don't think this has anything to do with the organization. I don't think it has anything to do with ownership. I think this has a lot to do with Deshaun Watson keeping his hands to himself, or just really opening up his pockets. I have no idea when a female's lawyer reaches out to him and says, hey, I want to keep this quiet. I want to pay this girl off. I want to get her off your hands. And Deshaun Watson says, I didn't do anything. I did nada. I'm not even going to pay her 1 red cent. She's asking for what? $100,000? $200,000? Is that going to burn a hole in Deshaun Watson's pocket? The answer is no. And Deshaun Watson, maybe he's stingy. I'm making $140 million in a 4-year deal. I'm just paying her off and getting her way. I'm going to go to the team that I want. I'm going to go to the organization I want. I'm going to win a couple of Super Bowls. I'm going to make some more money because in 4 years, I'm still 29 years old. In the prime of my career, I'm going to make a lot more money after that. I'll probably make a $400 or $500 million contract, the way these contracts are going up for quarterbacks. Why is he crying about a 6-digit offer to one of these girls to pay him off? That just shows you why Deshaun Watson deserves every bit that he's going to get on this. And what's going to hurt him now is that there are no teams going to be interested in him, except maybe 1 or 2. And the only reason why they're going to be interested in him, because they're not going to have to give up as much to get him. The Carolina Panthers might be interested in him. They might sink their draft picks, maybe 1 or 2 first-round draft picks in him, but it's nothing compared to what the Texans thought they were going to get from maybe the New York Jets, where they were asking for possibly 3 first-round draft picks, 2 second-round draft picks, and possibly 2 starting defensive players. They're not getting that. There's no way in hell they're getting a package like that, Josh.
No, it's not even going to be close. And the weird thing about Watson was when he came out of college, everybody talked about how great of a character he is. He's a good character guy on the field, off the field. He does a lot for the community. And I agree with you in the standpoint of, look, one of these stories is not going to probably be all, but one of them is truthful. There's no way 12 people come out and all 12 of them are lies. That's bogus. I feel for those women that had to go through something like that. Nobody should ever have to go through something like that, ever. So I think it's hideous that this is still happening in the society today, but we can't change that.
But we have to give him the benefit of the doubt, Josh.
No, of course.
I can't believe that 12 women have been sexually assaulted by this man. I don't think it was 12.
No, and I agree with you. But for those that were sexually assaulted, I feel for them. I do, because they had to go through this, because this guy thinks he's a bona fide superstar that makes all this money. He thinks that people think they can just do whatever they want. And sorry, that's not the case. We live in a society where everybody has to abide by the same rules as everybody else. And when you do something like this, it definitely raises a red flag. This is going to be interesting going forward. I have no idea how the Texans are going to be able to come back. I don't even know how the Texans, whether they trade him or not, could even let him play with this going on. The Houston Texans are in an impossible situation right now. His value is completely shot. And it's not going to come back like a snap of a finger. Like you brought up with Kobe Bryant, people wanted him released. People didn't want him on the Lakers anymore, and the Lakers stuck by him. Maybe the Texans do the same thing. There are reports, like I said, that the owner has something to do behind this, so we'll see.
He had to clean up his act with his wife, so that's something that Deshaun Watson's going to have to clean up, even if this isn't true. And he
has his girlfriend.
Yeah, well, he'll have to take this to court because he's not taking any settlement. He's not giving any settlement to these ladies. So I think there's going to have to be some kind of court case where he's going to have to go through this and possibly going to have to open up his pockets anyways. He could have closed this whole window up if he just opened up his pockets 48 hours ago. I really think this would have completely disappeared. Nothing would have came out. He would have moved on to another organization. He would have went to the team that he wanted to go to and maybe win 1 or 2 Super Bowls. And if it ever came out, nobody would even remember this or even care to remember this. But because Deshaun Watson did what he did, or didn't open up his pockets, he's now thrown himself under the bus, and now he's going to have to deal with this not only in the open market on some of the teams that might be interested in him still, but maybe the open market is not going to overload on picks to bring him in. So maybe he has to play another season with Houston on a very bad Houston team, a rebuilding Houston team, where he's going to have to prove himself yet again on a bad team. So it's going to be a very interesting next couple of weeks. And if Deshaun Watson does get traded, do the Jets make a move for him? I can't see it. If Joe Douglas does this, he better be sure that these stories and these accusations are false. And if the Carolina Panthers do it, Matt Rule is going to have to put his coaching career on the line, because if this move throws this Carolina Panther team under the bus, because we all know what happened with ownership over there before Matt Rule got there. That's an organization that does not need this right now, especially with Deshaun Watson. So if they're willing to make this move and bring in a great quarterback as good as Deshaun Watson is, they better be ready for the press. They better be ready for the NFL and obviously the women's rights groups that are going to attack him when season starts. So it's going to be very, very interesting in the next couple of weeks here in the NFL. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into the NFL free agency market. Yes, the New York Jets have finally landed a number one wide receiver. Is it a receiver that we expected? I wouldn't say Davis was the guy that Jet fans wanted, but it was a good move for the Jets, and they landed, finally, an edge rusher. Yes, a great edge rusher. Probably the most underrated edge rusher in the free agency market. When we come back, we will get into some Jets, Giants, and the league's free agency market here on the Weekend Crunch. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Little J. Yes, screaming and cheering for Little J, Joshua Silverberg. Mr. Tidy Whitey Man himself, Speedy Petey on the board. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Saturday. If the Islander game is not live, or if it is the Islander game live, we are after the Islander game at 10:30, which tonight they played the Philadelphia Flyers. It was a great game. I loved the press conferences after the game, by the way. As you know, the Weekend Crunch is live every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network. Brought to you by New York Sports Team Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Download the app, the Worldwide Sports Radio app. Check it out, guys. Go to iOS, which is Apple, WWSRN or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You could read our articles. You could check out all the shows, all the new shows that we have on our network. We have a great lineup of shows throughout the week, live shows. Download the app. It's the easiest way to check out the shows. And by the way, every time we go live, it pings on your phone, and all you got to do is open up the app, go to the video feed or go to the audio feed if you're driving, and listen to the shows. We have a great lineup of shows, the best in digital market media. And I know there are podcasts out there and people like to tune into the podcast. Those are replay shows, and we do have a podcast section if you don't have the opportunity to listen to us live. But our shows are live on our network, so you can actually call our shows, interact with the talent on our network. And we do have great guests that come on our shows every single week. And I want to give a shout out to Jillian, who's no longer with us, our intern, who put a lot of time into reaching out to a lot of different great guests that actually interacted with us, some of the best in the market. And next month, we have a new show. We have the Sports Loudmouths, and that's going to be me, Josh, and Speedy together 2 days a week on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'm telling you guys, you're going to laugh. It's going to be a great show, just like the Weekend Crunch. Interaction with the fans that are going to be interacting with us throughout.
The Beeve.
Yes, and the Beeve.
And the beef.
And the Beeve.
Oh,
Yes.
I mean-
But I will say this. After I came home from the hospital, I was trying to figure out where I was going to sleep. And I can't sleep on a bed. I can't sleep flat. So I was trying to pick if I'm going to sleep on the couch, if I'm going to put my feet up, find a leg rest so I can lift up and elevate my legs, because the doctor said I have to elevate my legs. So I finally had some help moving the sofa and moving my recliner in front of my TV. And for the last, I would say 4 days, I've been trying to sleep on a recliner. I have had no sleep, ladies and gentlemen. So with the tongue twisters that Josh can't spit out, I'm lucky I could speak and be here on the show. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to entertain. Anyways, I want to get into some free agency and the New York Jets. A lot of Jet fans were so excited for this offseason because everybody wanted to see what Joe Douglas was going to do with all the money he had on the board. Now, the first couple of moves really didn't come until the second day. And a lot of Jet fans were having a heart attack when, as soon as the free agency market opened up, Judon was right off the board with a blink of an eye. Thuney was off the board within a blink of an eye. All the guys that we were talking about the Jets were interested in, especially you Josh, who wanted all these offensive linemen. Well, the Jets
And
didn't.
Hunter Henry.
Yes, and the Jets didn't bring in any of these offensive linemen. Finally, really on the 48th hour, the New York Jets made a move, their first move, and they brought in, yes, a pass rusher, an edge rusher, which they really, really needed. And that was Carl Lawson, a guy who I think fit the bill for the New York Jets, the 4-3 defense. Robert Saleh's type of guy that likes to get at the quarterback, puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Even though he had 5.5 sacks last year, he played unbelievable. I think he was 4th in the league on getting to the quarterback pressure rate. I think he had more pressure.
I broke the news on your show about the Corey Davis signing.
Yes, you did. And Corey Davis was an interesting signing. And if you notice what Joe Douglas is doing, Joe Douglas is not going to make any big moves without giving them less than a 3-year contract. I believe Joe Douglas wants control of the free agency market every other year. And if these free agents don't pan out and they don't fit what the Jets think that this organization is going to be, like Carl Lawson, if he doesn't have a good season this year, they could get rid of him in the offseason, $7 million or $8 million on the salary cap, and then move on from him off the salary cap the year after that. Even Corey Davis, he signed him to a 3-year deal, $45 million. It was a good deal for Corey Davis because he's making $15 a year. Usually that's a number one type of wide receiver. I don't think Corey Davis is a number one, but he was one of the best red zone wide receivers in the NFL last year. And then
it wasn't even with bonuses and incentives, so it was 12.5.
It's still, if with bonuses, he's making $15 million.
Yeah.
And is he worth $15 million? I don't know. Now, Corey Davis has not had one of those years. Remember, he was a high first-round draft pick. He didn't pan out with Tennessee, but this last season, he played very, very well. He almost had 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. He's been in the league for almost 4 years, or he has been in the league for 4 years. So I expect a guy like Corey Davis to maybe start developing in a Robert Saleh, a.k.a. Mike LaFleur type of offense. Now, Josh, you liked some of these moves. What really stuck out to you to the Jets' second-hand free agents? What guy really stuck out to you on these signings?
Well, to me, it was a couple of underlining moves. They got the tight end from Buffalo,
Tyler Kroft.
And they got Corey Davis, too. And the one theme that I think of when I see these moves is they went for guys that can block. Guys that can block also down the field. Corey Davis is one of the best blocking receivers in the league. The kid from Buffalo, also the same thing. He could block down the field. And they got the special teamer as well from New Orleans, who the Saints fans were devastated they lost him. He has a motor like nonstop. And if you didn't see his press conference, I mean, he even says special teams is one of the most, if not the most important thing in the NFL. It's so vital because it determines field position in games. You're hearing Keanu Neal is deciding between the Jets and the Cowboys, which would be another one. They would move him as the pass rusher. They would make him a linebacker, an outside linebacker, which would be fascinating in that system because he has the body type that can kind of be that pass rushing linebacker. He's got a fast motor. He's got a big body, but he's also best friends with Marcus May, was college roommates with him. The key thing is when I see these moves, Errol, is usually when you have a rookie quarterback, and this kind of tells me that they're moving on from Sam too. This is what this tells me. And the reason why I say that is usually when you have a rookie quarterback, usually in year 2 or year 3, that's where you start putting all the pieces together. That's when you know you have to set the tone for the quarterback. As a rookie, you're working your way into the league. You're figuring things out. The second and third year is where you have to start pushing it. He's saving that salary cap, I think, for when he gets that rookie quarterback on that rookie contract. Because to have a quarterback on a rookie deal, it's so vital in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, those guys, when you have them on rookie contracts, you could spread that money around and build around that quarterback on a rookie deal. So when I see something like that, that's my takeaway of it. These were very good under the radar moves. Are the Jets winning the division or the Super Bowl? No, they're not. If they get 6 or 7 wins, that's a huge plus from what they had last year. And if you see any sort of positivity out of this season after what happened last year, it's always a bonus, but that's what they're looking towards. I think that's what Joe Douglas is.
Do you want me to tell you why Sam Darnold's not going to be on the team next year? Because there was a move today that the Pittsburgh Steelers made. They re-signed Juju Smith-Schuster, which nobody thought was going to happen. And one of the teams that really stuck out like a sore thumb going into the offseason was the New York Jets because Sam Darnold and Juju were actually roommates at USC. These guys were a great tandem over there. That was when Sam Darnold was looked at to be one of the high-profile quarterbacks that a lot of people are comparing to the Andrew Lucks and some of the young quarterbacks that we've seen come out of the draft over the last couple of years, being that superstar franchise quarterback. I do not believe now that Juju has signed back with Pittsburgh that Sam Darnold will be back with the New York Jets. A matter
And
of
we didn't
fact,
mention Keelan Cole. We didn't mention even Keelan Cole. Keelan Cole is another one. And the big thing about Cole is when it comes to trying to get possession of the football, I think he was like top 5 in the league. He's one of the best at that and trying to get the ball above defenders.
remember this. I just mentioned Juju Smith-Schuster signing back with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is looking for a starting quarterback. Pittsburgh is looking for a future quarterback of this organization now that Ben Roethlisberger is probably going to only be there for one more year. Expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to reach out to the New York Jets about Sam Darnold. I really believe out of all the teams that now are available to make a move for a quarterback, there are not many. The Bears bringing Andy Dalton to the team. If they do go after Russell Wilson, there were stories coming out that Seattle was asking for 3 first-round draft picks, which the Bears turned it down. So I don't know if Russell Wilson is leaving Seattle.
They want a predecessor in the trade for Russ. And all I've heard is how Pete Carroll loves Sam Darnold, and he wants Sam Darnold, and he needs to have Darnold here in Seattle. Well, the Jets have him, and clearly you're done with Russ. Why not figure out a way to deal with it this way?
Well, Russ
You
is...
have something you want, we have something we want. Let's talk.
I don't think that's going to happen.
They
I
might
think there's a
try.
better chance Sam Darnold going to Pittsburgh than he does to go to Seattle. I think
I'll
Seattle...
take another pick from the Seahawks if they want. If they trade Russell Wilson, that first-round pick from Seattle, they trade Russell Wilson, that first-round pick for Seattle that the Jets got for Jamal Adams last year, that stock, that value, they're the worst team in that division right now.
I think there's a better chance of going to
No.
Pittsburgh. The value doesn't go anywhere because the only
No,
thing...
I'm saying because the Jets have that Seattle first-round pick.
That's fine.
I'm saying without Russell Wilson, that with the Jet pick, Seattle's going to be so bad.
Russ is going nowhere. I think Russ is staying in Seattle. I don't think there's any way he's getting moved.
I hope he does get traded. It makes that 2 first-round picks, and one of them's going to be really good from Seattle. Thank you, Jamal Adams. Moron.
Well, Jamal Adams is probably going to head over there to the Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys, next year when he becomes a free agent if they don't franchise him. That's what I expected to happen. He was going to screw the Seattle Seahawks because the Seattle Seahawks are a rebuilding team and the Jets are a rebuilding team. But in a year from now, the Jets could be a Super Bowl contender or a playoff contending team, something that Jamal Adams should have looked at before he decided to cry to the New York Jets organization that he wanted out.
And cried about his depression.
Well, that's a whole nother
That's what
story.
he cried about. He used the word depression, which is
I don't really want to get into Jamal Adams. He's an idiot. But
it's just severe mental
I want to
health
get in. I want to finish up before we have to go into the next segment on the free agency market. So, Speedy, what really stuck out to you in the free agency market? What players and where they went really stuck out to you?
One of which I'm surprised he only got $13 million a year was Yannick Ngakoue from the Raiders. And the Raiders, they desperately need defense, but only $13 million in comparison to Lawson and Hendrickson, when I think he's just a more well-rounded player. He's been a more productive player in his career. He had a rough season this year. That's probably why his market dropped, but surprising that he only got 13 for a guy that's really good, well-rounded player. Could improve his run defense, but only 13 a year and only 2 years, too. That's very strange. And you usually see the Raiders overpay for players, too.
Well, now they need an offensive line, Speedy.
Yeah, that's the one downside of what they've done so far because they need so much on defense. They've purged a lot of their offensive line assets for whatever reason. They cut Gabe Jackson. I mean, they traded Trent Brown's contract, which was horrendous as it was, but...
And he went back to the Patriots.
He went back to the Patriots.
They traded Rodney Hudson.
They traded Rodney Hudson, which I didn't get. So, yeah, they definitely made a sacrifice.
And that was a strength of their team.
Yeah, that was a huge strength of their team. Now, granted, they still have some good young players, so it's not a god-awful offensive line, but it's definitely not a big strength like it used to be. And then they go out and sign Kenyon Drake, which was kind of weird. So you have now Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake now running an average offensive line.
That's a good tandem.
It's a nice tandem. How good the offensive line will hold up is another question. But big splash, though, with Ngakoue. Now I think they need a corner. Still needs a lot of secondary help for that team. But a lot of the corners now off the market. William Jackson to Washington's a nice move. And Kyle Fuller now is a name that's very interesting. And I think the Jets, that could be a name they should look out for, too.
I don't want the Jets to make any more moves, selfish, crazy moves. I think they've made quite a few moves. I think
they got LaMarcus Joyner, which was a nice move.
I think if you're going to bring Neal in, you bring Neal in, or if you can get Turner, the offensive line help. Maybe the Jets think that they can build around the offensive line in the draft, especially in the later rounds, because there's a lot of interior offensive linemen that you can go after in the middle of the draft. So maybe that's what the Jets are thinking. Maybe
Why
that's
did we
what Joe
forget about
Douglas...
Cameron Clark, though? He was, a fourth-round pick last year? Are we just going to forget that he ever existed?
No.
Let him be under a good coaching staff and see what he does. I don't know. Give him a shot.
I will say that the Arizona Cardinals have won in free agency. Just bringing in J.J. Watt to be on the other side with Chandler Jones, sensational. Even the small moves that they made really stuck out Kyler Murray he's going to be a fantastic quarterback. This offensive line is definitely going to be a lot better this year. They have weapons on both sides now with A.J. Green going on the other side of Hopkins. You have two guys that can absolutely dominate in the open field. A.J. Green, who's not the same A.J. Green he once was with the Cincinnati Bengals, but very, very good, and he's still a quality second guy in a great offense. And I think that the Arizona Cardinals are going to be the team to beat in their division. It's crazy to say because I think that's the best division in football.
I have to see who the 49ers quarterback is first. The 49ers are getting all their guys back.
You're going to tell me that the 49ers even getting their players back? First of all, they lost Robert Saleh, which that's going to be a big loss to them defensively. I don't care how good Nick Bosa is. Nick Bosa was as good as that defensive coordinator in the defensive calls in the 4-3. I don't know if they're playing the 4-3 next year.
The Rams also got Stafford.
But Matthew Stafford, is he that much better than Jared Goff? Jared Goff had over 4,000 some odd yards last year, and he had over close to 30 touchdowns. I'm not a Jared Goff fan, and I love Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford can't stay healthy, and Matthew Stafford, even though he comes from the Lions organization, and yes, he has more game-winning touchdowns than any quarterback in the NFL in the last 10 years, I still worry that going over there in a new offense in LA, going to play in front of his hometown crowd is going to put a little too much pressure on him, especially the amount of picks they gave up for him and amount of opportunities that they didn't go after in free agency. The Rams didn't get anything in free agency.
No. Well, we can all agree the Seattle Seahawks are the worst team in that division. Yes. So, Jamal Adams is officially, once again, probably on a last place team.
And Jamal Adams will be over there in Cowboy land next year.
And
he'll take up all the rest of the Cowboy salary cap. They only have 18 left. They'll probably have to give him 15. And then you have, $3 million left for a terrible defense?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be over there in Seattle. I didn't think he was going to stay in Seattle. I think Seattle made a huge mistake. Maybe they really thought they were going to win the Super Bowl last year, bringing in Jamal Adams to help out that defense. That defense was horrendous. That secondary was one of the worst defenses in NFL history.
And they lost their number one quarter.
And that was another guy the Jets weren't interested in. Thank God they stay away from him.
Yeah, that was a weird contract. I think Jacksonville badly overpaid for him.
Well, Jacksonville is another organization that overpaid for a lot of players. They had 7 or 8 players. And by the way, all those New England Patriot fans out there that were so excited on some of the acquisitions they made, the best acquisition they made was Smith and Brown, bringing Brown back on a cheaper contract, adding and solidifying that left tackle position, which I think they've been very weak at ever since he's left. So I'm intrigued with the Patriots in that division. This is going to be a really good division. The Jets, the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, and the New England Patriots. This could be a very tough division, a really tough out when it comes to who's going to win that division, who's going to be the wild card in the division. Maybe there's 2 wild card teams in that division. So it's going to be a very interesting season. And the AFC is not tough. There really is no team that really sticks out like a sore thumb. And by the way, Juju was actually interested in the Ravens. That's what I heard.
And he got offered a contract from the Chiefs. So I can't believe he turned down the Chiefs. I'm baffled that he did that.
I was surprised he went back to Pittsburgh.
That's a possible Super Bowl appearance you just let go.
I'm telling you right now, Sam Darnold is going to be traded to Pittsburgh. Remember I said that. I think there's some kind of deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Juju on why he decided to sign back with them.
I mean, it's only a 1-year deal.
He's got to prove himself.
He's got to prove himself. Well, there's nothing really to prove.
For him. And he did. Look, they tried to make him the number 1. Yeah, played like a number 1. I can tell you that right now.
It is.
And he needs to stop with the TikTok nonsense and dropping balls in big games. That's what he needs to stop doing.
Well, that's a lot of wide receivers in the league. That's for sure. I mean, a lot of them are not Hill. Tyreek Hill, who doesn't really drop the ball at all. And he's like 5'0".
He's also wide open all the time. It's easy to lob. And
he don't drop the ball. How many times have we seen quarterbacks throw to these wide receivers in the open field? They're wide open. They drop the ball.
I've seen it plenty. His name is Sam Darnold.
Well,
I'm sure there's worse examples than that. But
Evan Ingram dropping the ball, pot hands. Robbie Anderson, another one, pot hands.
What's going on with Galladay?
What I'm hearing is Kenny Galladay will visit the New York Giants facilities this weekend.
Oh, he already did.
Did he? I thought it was going to be tomorrow.
He did it yesterday. Got a physical, and they checked everything out. He met with Joe Judge, left the facility, but they think he could still stay tomorrow. And I heard that the Giants are interested in the corner from the Titans as well that just got released.
Corey Jackson?
Yeah, Corey Jackson.
I'd like that. Yeah, that'd be nice.
I think the Giants will sink their fangs into Kenny Galladay.
They need to.
They're going to overpay him. They're going to overpay him.
That's what I'm afraid of because he is injury prone.
They're definitely going to overpay him, especially. And Golden Tate's there. Him and Kenny Galladay are
No,
very.
Golden Tate got cut.
Oh, he got cut. When did he get cut?
Like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't even know he got cut.
Yeah, that contract was abysmal.
Well, I'm very surprised he got cut. I didn't hear that he got cut.
Oh, his Giant tenure was awful.
Oh God.
I was very surprised he got cut because of the money that they're going to have to scale off the salary cap.
Yeah, but he was such a pain. He wanted out. He was getting to be frustrated.
Well, him and his wife were a pain.
Maybe he'll go back to the Seahawks with all their other dysfunction.
Well, he's not going to. He's not going to get
Russell
a big
Wilson
contract.
could punch him in the face.
It's going to be
Golden
very,
Tate
very
and Jamal
interesting.
Adams, the ex-New York power couple.
Well, I think free agency is still on the rocks. I think we're going to see in the next couple of weeks some of the other big names coming off. And remember, Neal is still on the board, and there are stories coming out from his camp.
Too.
There is a story coming out of his camp. It's down to 2 teams, the Jets and the Cowboys. I believe by the end of the weekend, he will make his decision on where he wants to go. Hopefully, as a Jet fan, it will be the New York Jets. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into some basketball conversation. Next week is the NBA trading deadline. And my interesting thoughts to where the Knicks could go in the trade deadline is very interesting. And are the Knicks interested in a big man? Are they willing to give up draft stock for a big man? When we come back, I will argue that they are interested in a big man here on the Weekend Crunch. A little DJ Speedy, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Joshua Silverberg. On the board, as always, Speedy Petey. As you guys know, you can listen to our show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network, brought to you by New York Sports Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Download the Worldwide Sports Radio app on iOS, WWSRN, or Android. Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Great game tonight by the New York Islanders, the Philadelphia Flyers, a team that is really been struggling at the position. Their goaltending. Hart, who a lot of people thought was going to have a breakout year, being that he was one of the most young, talented goaltenders. I think this was his second year in the NHL as a full-time goaltender, has not played well. I think he's given up about 16 goals in the last 3 games he started. So he has not played very, very well for the Philadelphia Flyers. But great game tonight. But I want to get into the NBA trade deadline next week. There's so much going on next week when it comes to sports. You have the trade deadline. You have the MLB season about to start. You have the NHL trade deadline the week after. I mean, it's just so much stuff going on in sports, and March Madness, of course. The New York Knicks have to make a move, and they need to bring in that superstar or that star player that's going to help them make that run throughout the playoffs. Now, being that it's such an open Eastern Conference, I don't think the Knicks are going to beat the Brooklyn Nets in a 7-game series. They're too good offensively. Now, the Brooklyn Nets don't play defense. I watched them last night. They're horrific. They played the Orlando Magic last night, and they couldn't stop a lick. The Orlando Magic. So I know when it becomes a half-court game in the playoffs, the Brooklyn Nets are going to have problems against the better defensive teams in the Eastern Conference, like the Milwaukee Bucks, the 76ers, and even the New York Knicks if they have to play the Knicks. But still, all in all, they're a very good all-around offensive team, and they're going to be very hard to beat in a 7-game series, especially if Mr. Durant comes back, and I believe he will be back. But the Knicks, being that there's a trade deadline, we've been hearing a lot of names come out, and a big man. He is now wanting out of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Speedy.
Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond has been the name that's really been peeking out when it comes to stories that the New York Knicks are possibly willing to make a trade with the Cleveland Cavaliers to add the big man. Now, is Andre Drummond a good player? He absolutely is. He's still a very young center in this league. I think he's 27, 28 years old. He's going to want a big contract next year. He's probably the second or third best center in the league. He's a very good offensive rebounder. He's probably the best center in the league when it comes to offensive rebounds. He averages about 12 to 13, and he averages about 14 points a game. He's a good all-around center. But the league has transitioned. The game has completely changed. It's become a shooter's game. Steph Curry has really changed the league. I'll say it again, even though I'm not a big fan of his. He's changed the game. It's become a shooting point guard league. But it used to be a big man league. Dwight Howard probably wouldn't be a number one pick if he was going into the draft this year, because you're not going to see a big man go in the first 2 or 3 picks.
Only if they could shoot from the outside, like DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, even DeAndre Ayton. I don't think he'd be a first pick in the draft going into this year. I think you're looking for the guys that could shoot the three, the on-top 40% three-point shooter. You're going to see Edwards. When he came out of the draft and he was the number one pick, why was he the number one pick? Was he the best player in the draft last year going into the draft? Probably not. He was one of the best shooters in the draft. I think his three-point shooting percentage was 40%. And that's why he went 1 over LaMelo Ball. So, again, I think he's become a shooter's league. Now, Victor Oladipo, that's the guy that really sticks out in my eyes for the New York Knicks, a guy that the Knicks have been gunning for since the offseason last year. He's a Rose guy. I think he's a Wesley guy, and absolutely a Thibodeau guy. He could play defense. He could play two-way basketball. He's a good all-around shooter, three-point shooter this year. I think he's 38%. He's averaging about 19 and 7, and he's a good all-around player. And on the Knicks, he'd be a star. You put him together with Julius Randle, you have a pretty good 1-2 punch, Josh.
Yes, you do. I like Victor Oladipo. Of course, you always worry about the injury concerns. The thing about Oladipo that interests me as well is, like you said, he gets all the points as well from the outside, which is a big thing. You talked about his shooting percentage. His defense is so underrated. He really fits the Thibodeau system perfectly. I still look at the Miami Heat as where he's going to end up. I think Miami is going to try to make a splash because they're starting to play well. Jimmy Butler's back. He's back to the dynamic player that he is. You can make the case Jimmy Butler's the most important player for his team because you saw when he was hurt, that team was a mess. When he's playing on the court, he's the perfect guy to lead a team. Coming out of Minnesota and even Chicago, always a bad locker room guy, this and that nonsense from people that didn't even ever meet the guy that was coming out. You mentioned Andre Drummond too. Andre Drummond is an interesting name. The only thing is that the Knicks have gotten by without a Mitchell Robinson. Why would they try to get a big man when you can play with a Nerlens Noel and then Mitchell Robinson is coming back in the next week? I mean, look, if you want to trade like a Mitchell Robinson and a second-round pick for Andre Drummond, that's fine if you think that that's going to put you over the top, all well and good. I just don't know if Drummond really fits the Thibodeau system very well. He's a very good rebounder. He plays somewhat good interior defense. His offensive game is pretty much non-existent unless he gets the rebounds and the second chance points. You got to see them more too. They're getting Derrick Rose back. They're getting all these guys back. So let's see how it plays out. But I agree with you. I think Victor Oladipo would be a perfect fit in the Thibodeau system. I don't know if the Rockets would be interested. I don't think the Knicks would do it too. And that's John Wall now, or they might just wait in the offseason to do it. I'm not entirely sure about that, but they could always use another point guard. I mean, I like Frank Ntilikina too. He's played very well, and he's showing that he does fit the Thibodeau system. So I like where this Knicks team is at. There's no pressure for them to really add something. I know what you're saying, Errol. The Eastern Conference is wide open. It's there for them to take it if they want it. I just don't know if getting Oladipo is worth giving up what the Rockets might ask for. And that could be a lot, especially at the trade deadline. You never know what they can ask for.
Well, it's going to be very, very interesting because obviously in the Western Conference, you have Dallas as the 8th seed. I don't know if they're going to get into the playoffs. I still think they're very weak. There are stories coming out that they're going to try to move KP at the trade deadline. First of all, that contract is horrendous.
By the way, the Nets lost that game to the Magic.
Yes, they did. The Nets are a team that you're going to have to worry about, especially if Kevin Durant doesn't come back. And there are some stories coming out that he might not be back this year.
I think he tore his hamstring.
And he might not be back for the rest of the season. If he's not, the chances of them coming out of the Eastern Conference is going to be even more slimmer, even though I still think with the talent that they have with Kyrie Irving and James Harden, who, yes, he is an MVP candidate. Anybody that says that he isn't is blind. Ever since he's come to the team, he's been the leader of that team. He is easily the best player on that team. And I could even cry and argue he's a better all-around player than Kevin Durant right now. He's been fantastic ever since he's been traded. They give up a lot for James Harden. And James Harden, because of the way he's playing right now, he's going to demand a huge contract in the offseason by the Brooklyn Nets. And I don't know if the Brooklyn Nets are going to be able to bring back some of the pieces that they have, especially one that is out for the season. He tore his ACL, and they've been talking about moving. You know who I'm talking about, Speedy.
Spencer Dinwiddie. And they said
Spencer
they want a
Dinwiddie.
second-round pick and a role player for him, which shows you that the depth of the Brooklyn Nets, they have none. They're asking for a role player in return for Spencer Dinwiddie, who could be a point guard on, 80%, 85% of the teams.
If I were the
league.
Knicks, I would try to scoop him up. He's the perfect point guard. He is
But
the
what the Nets
perfect
give
point
them to
guard.
him.
No, I'm not even talking about that. Even if he gets traded, nobody's going to re-sign him. He's going to go into the market. And he's a guy that the Knicks should definitely look at in the offseason as my starting point guard. He's a good point guard. He's a good offensive point guard. He's good in the pick and roll.
Chip on his shoulder, too.
And he's a good defensive point guard.
Yeah.
So he's a perfect guy that would fit the New York Knicks culture. And he's still quite young, 30 years old. He still has maybe 4 or 5 good years left. John Wall is a guy that definitely sticks out, and so is Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal, they're going to demand a lot of prospects, a lot of draft stock if they're going to move on.
The weird thing is that he says he wants to stay with the Wizards, though.
I don't believe that. Come on, man. Why does he want to stay with a losing organization?
Some guys are just they
not
want to stay with their franchise.
They're not
loyal.
keeping him. The organization is going to move on from Bradley Beal because they can get a load of draft stock for him.
Of course they can. It would make sense to do it.
Here's a team that I think is going to make a move for him in the offseason. Oklahoma City. That's a team that has a lot of draft stock.
They got a lot of ammo.
I believe they can bring him in, not give up much. What are they going to give up? They have like 17 first-round draft picks in the next 7 years. They can really trade away 3 first-round draft picks and a player.
What about Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks? I've been hearing that pickup steam in the offseason.
That's never going to happen.
Thibodeau loves him.
Yeah, Thibodeau loves him. That's why
Thibodeau loves him, and Kenny Payne is there, the Kentucky connection.
I think there's a better chance.
Any Kentucky players out, Arrow. We should all know better by now. All Kentucky players are
I think there's a better chance of Booker going and demanding out of Phoenix. That's what I'm hearing.
That's fine. I'll take
That's
Devin
what
Booker.
I'm hearing. Doesn't matter how good Phoenix is playing right now. Devin Booker loves Rose. He loves Wesley. He loves Payne. He has his connections over there with the New York Knicks. And there are stories coming out that at the end of the season, win, lose, or draw, Devin Booker is going to ask to be out of Phoenix. And with the Knicks money, with the $40 million, $42 million that they're going to have to spend in the offseason, why not wait and not add a player like a Victor Oladipo or a Bradley Beal, even though Devin Booker isn't a free agent? You add Devin Booker to that team, and you put him up with Julius Randle. You have a great 1-2 punch. You have R.J. Barrett as your third option, which is a great third option. And
You don't think the Suns would ask for Barrett?
No. What I would think they're going to want, they're going to either want Emmanuel Quickley or Obi Toppin, or they want both of them. And they're going to want 3 first-round draft picks.
And they'll still have Cap to get another superstar.
Yeah, and I think the Knicks could really rebuild in 2 off seasons. And Tom Thibodeau is showing you why the New York Knicks brought him in and why I think he was the best man for the job. It's so interesting. It really is. And you have to give Tom Thibodeau, Rose, Wesley, this whole organization. And by the way, James Dolan, who is taking a step back and not speaking up and not saying the things that a lot of fans have been throwing him under the bus for. And by the way, this whole Patrick Ewing thing, it's sad that Patrick Ewing was not respected by the security over there when he was over there for Georgetown, the Big East Championship game. I understand why he's upset, and I understand what he said, that nobody respects the Hall of Famers or the past New York Knicks. But the security guard had a job to do. It doesn't matter if it's Patrick Ewing. If he doesn't have a badge, he has to do his job. If he has a family and he has kids to feed, and James Dolan or the head of security sees that he did not look, that Patrick Ewing didn't have his badge, he can get fired.
Really quick, did you hear the story that Tom Thibodeau already matched the career win total as a Knicks head coach as David Fizdale?
Wow.
Sounds about right.
David Fizdale is an absolute joke. And by the way, his hairdo.
For 2 years?
His hairdo it looks like he has a mop on the top of his head, man. It looks terrible.
I sent you that picture.
He looks terrible, man.
I sent Arrow one night. You know, Fizdale's got like an afro thing going, and Arrow goes, "No way." I sent the photo. Arrow goes, "Oh my God, what is that?"
With all that money that he's still getting paid by the New York Knicks, maybe he should go and find himself a barber. It's absolutely horrendous. It's terrible. When we come back, it's March Madness time. We are going to go through our brackets quick, and we are going to express our feelings to what we have seen so far in this crazy March Madness bracket here on the Weekend Crunch. It's time to get into March Madness. As you guys know, this is the Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Little J himself, Joshua Silverberg, and the producer, Mr. Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to a show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network. Brought to you by New York Sports Team Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Well, Josh, I know a lot of fans can't wait for March Madness. And we didn't have March Madness last year, and I completely took shots at the NCAA not having the tournament. I know the whole COVID-19 thing really shattered the opportunity to watch possibly one of the greatest March Madness seasons we probably would ever see, because we didn't know who was going to win a championship. And this year, we're kind of in the same boat. Even the number one teams. I know a lot of people are picking Gonzaga. I don't like Gonzaga because even though they have the size, they have the defense, they have the shooting, this team falls apart later in the games. Especially in the second half of the season, we've seen them have problems against even weak competition in the fourth quarter. And I think as the bracket moves further and further, I think we're going to see Gonzaga get eliminated. So, all right. So where do we want to start? Speedy, where do you want to start first?
Let's start in the South region. That had the most games. Your champion, Baylor, they did what they had to do. And Josh's team, Wisconsin, that was quite an effort from them. We all had Wisconsin, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Josh,
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you that superstitious where you pick against your team?
Well, my brother texted me. He goes, "How come you didn't text me about Wisconsin?" I said, "Dude, I texted you last time after they were playing Penn State and they almost lost."
Yeah,
so I'm not doing that anymore. I wait till the end of the game now.
So this was one of the big shockers. North Texas over Purdue. A lot of people said Purdue was a younger team that maybe they could be vulnerable, but North Texas, they were like a 5 seed in their conference tournament. They came out of nowhere, but Conference USA does it again. The most random upsets. Marshall a couple of years ago.
Purdue, in Purdue too. It was pretty much a home game.
I couldn't believe Purdue got knocked out. I couldn't believe it. 4th seed, a team that I thought was going to get in to possibly the Sweet 16. Did I have them in the Sweet 16?
No, you had Villanova beating
That's
them.
right. I had Villanova beating them. Nevertheless, I thought Purdue was going to get out of the first round. I was very surprised that they got knocked out as big as they did against a good team, a team that I didn't think was going to knock them out. So,
but Josh, you bring up a good point. The home court advantage, you think would be a good big thing for Purdue, but
I mean, you would think it would work. It's literally around the corner for them. They didn't have to go anywhere. They didn't have to do anything, and they still lost.
and we've seen teams feast on that in the past. Look at South Carolina; they were on the Final Four because the tournament was in Carolina for a while.
Yeah,
and there's
exactly.
been several other teams that have done that. But it's hindered not only Purdue, but a lot of the rest of the Big Ten, and that's the biggest shocker. Oral Roberts knocking off Ohio State in overtime.
we expected some of these big upsets. And Ohio State, nobody would have thought Ohio State was going to get knocked out in the first round. But these upsets always happen in March Madness. That's why it's so great to watch, because you don't know what to expect. And by the way, teams like North Carolina, who just got knocked out, Duke, Kentucky teams, all these teams that you expect to make runs all the way to a national championship, they didn't even make, besides North Carolina.
Michigan State.
They didn't even
Michigan
make it.
State's
Oh, they blew it, yeah. I was
They
surprised
blew
at that. And
That was interesting last night. Did you see that last night? The thing with Izzo and his players.
Well, he did. That's the second straight tournament he's done that. Remember, he did that the first round in 2019 too to Aaron Henry against Bradley. They barely survived and won that game. Well, it works. Their team went to the Final Four, so clearly he's doing something.
It's
right.
typical Tom Izzo.
Yeah, anyone who's bashing Tom Izzo, it worked in that instance. It just didn't work here. It's just surprising because UCLA, they're kind of young, and Mick Cronin is usually a terrible tournament coach, but in this weird of a year, that ends up happening. But yeah, Ohio State definitely the biggest upset so far. Illinois knocked off Drexel like we expected to, which sets up a matchup with Loyola Chicago. 2 Illinois teams. That's going to be very interesting too.
So, Speedy, who did you pick? And I know, Arrow, you picked Baylor, I believe.
I was not on the Baylor bandwagon. I picked them out.
Bandwagon. A lot of people didn't pick Baylor to win.
I think it was probably the third most common. I think Gonzaga and Illinois
Yeah.
were the most picked final champions.
I
Yeah.
picked Illinois.
So you picked Illinois. North Texas, another one I got wrong. I got the rest of that region right. Texas Tech, Arkansas. That's going to be an interesting game, too. I have Arkansas in the Final Four in that region, but I think Texas Tech could upset them, too. So Florida, I was right about. And the only other thing I was wrong about so far, I had Liberty upsetting Oklahoma State. They hung tough for a while, but eventually that talent of Oklahoma State with Avery Anderson and Cade Cunningham.
The thing of it is, I love Illinois because of, 2 guys. It's Kofi Cockburn and Ayo Dosunmu.
What is his name? Coffee what?
Kofi Cockburn.
That's not actually how you pronounce it. But
in
you
all
decided
honesty-
to trigger Errol for that.
Here's the thing: when you look at Illinois, you can make the case they have everything: offense, defense, they're the perfect team. I actually think they're the most exciting team in this.
I think that's the toughest region, though, too. You're judging
It is, but tonight's show when they played, I mean, yes, 1 for 16 versus Drexel, but then again, Virginia lost to a 16.
Still my favorite non-my team moment of my life.
It sends the statement to that region: we're not going to be pushed around. We legit earned our number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And that's what they showed tonight. They showed it in the Big Ten tournament. They showed it all season long. They have 2 really, really, really good players. I mean, I'm convinced Sumu, they said they think sleeps with that face mask that he has, which I think is fascinating as can be.
Why is it fascinating?
Because if he sleeps in that thing, that's interesting as all can be. Because that thing, first of all, it's plastic.
Speedy
If
doesn't
he's
wear his
sleeping in
underwear
that,
when he goes
I mean,
to bed, you know?
Well, no, he wears it everywhere else. They don't know if he sleeps in it, though. Would you be comfortable wearing that face mask like that?
It wouldn't
It
it wouldn't surprise me. It works for him. He's one of the best guards in the country.
But I
Maybe
was
the best
very-
guard in the country.
I mean, like I said, I was surprised with North Carolina, Wisconsin tonight. I was very upset at
I
where
didn't.
Wisconsin got in that side of the bracket. I said, great. We
Now-
get North Carolina, then we get Baylor after. It's ridiculous.
Now, I don't know if you ever told me. Did you think they got underseeded? Because I thought they did as a 9 seed. Wisconsin.
As a 9, I thought so because they were a top 10 team all season, and they were a top 25 team all year up until the last week of the season. If not for a terrible Iowa officiating game at the end of
Right.
the call, at the end of the game, they probably win that game.
Yeah, I thought they should have been a 7.
That's a
But
baby
this
cry.
is
by
what
the way.
Wisconsin does, though. They're a tough out in the tournament. They
Yes.
always have been.
I mean, they made it to the Sweet 16 as an 8 seed. What were they in the Final Four? Were they a 5 seed? One of the years they were in the
They
Final
went to the
Four.
Final Four?
Yeah, because I know they were a 1 seed when they played Kentucky.
No, they were the 1 seed when they went to the championship. I want to say they were a 2. And again, they should have won that game.
Shoulda,
If not for
coulda,
Nate
woulda.
Merritt.
Errol's hate of Wisconsin is really coming out.
I don't care what Errol hates. I can care less what he hates because he hates everybody and everything. So I don't.
No,
care.
I do not. Stop telling
Yes,
the fans
you
that I
do.
hate
Yes,
everybody
you
and
do.
everything.
So
I do
you
not.
do.
I do not.
First off,
What? Because I don't like Wisconsin?
I still don't understand why.
Well, that's for you to know and for me to
You
always
told me
know.
for
I think you're
like
just getting a
5
personal grudge at this rate.
You've
Who
told me this
knows?
story 5 times. It has never in my life even made any sense to me. They have nothing to do with you. Did they ever recruit you and not give you a scholarship or something?
No,
Is that
that
it?
would never happen because I would never go there.
Well, that would be ridiculous. 'Cause that's a great hockey school. Then, if you got offered it, then you should have went there.
Well, I was offered from New Hampshire and Maine, and at the time they were the 2 best in the country. I just didn't want to be redshirted the first year, so
well,
I didn't
my
want to go to
point is
Wisconsin. I was not going to be a Badger. I mean,
Well,
come on.
that's
Who wants to
unfortunate
be a
for you.
Badger?
Badgers are nasty animals, by
Yeah,
the way.
well,
And also, I've been to the campus
And
of Wisconsin.
you know, and you're a nasty animal, so there you go. Maybe
I know
that's why
I
you
am.
like
That's
the
okay.
Wisconsin.
I'll take that. I'll
Badgers
take you.
right
You
there.
call me Little J. Call me a nasty animal.
You are a little
Compliment.
J.
I
You
keep
are a
it
little J.
alive.
Can we finish this?
Yeah, we
please?
have the whole left side still to do. So, Josh, you said you had Ohio State already knocked down the Final Four on that side, and Illinois.
Gone.
The West region, Gonzaga, Iowa. This is my weird region. Like, I don't really think it's that good.
Gonzaga got a great field.
Yes, they did, and they should be at least safe to make it to the Sweet 16, I think. Now, them versus Virginia, if that's a matchup, could be interesting, but a lot of people are picking Virginia to get upset, too, which we've heard Ohio as a sleeper team. A school that is good offensively, defensively, I don't know where they're at. And then there's the bottom half, too. Iowa is a team a lot of people like, but Oregon's always a pest, and they're a team that I have
Florida
as a sleeper.
State, you.
Florida State, really? I never got the hype of Florida State.
Yeah,
a lot of people love them.
You don't like them.
They lost 3 players. I do. They lost 3 players from last year's team. I loved them last year too. I think they were one of the 3 teams I would have
had
picked to
them
win the
losing in
title
second
last
round
year.
to Georgetown.
I could see that happening too. I think I had Colorado in that game, but I think if Georgetown wins, I agree with you.
Oregon State today showed when a team gets hot at the right time, it becomes a very difficult task to beat a team like that. And
Oklahoma
Oregon
State's a much bigger animal than Tennessee, though.
Well,
Plus,
of
Tennessee's
course,
not a
but
good
at the same
tournament
time,
team.
But look at Georgetown, though. They get Colorado. So that could warm them up a little bit. Then you see what Florida State does. But you mentioned they have some players out. This is an opportunity for Georgetown to really make some noise. And then you also, if they win that game, they'll get against Michigan right now, who I picked all year until all these injuries happened. It could be a great matchup for Georgetown.
Now, here's a popular upset that I have too. A lot of people are having LSU over Michigan. Did you have that too?
No.
No.
Because I know you were mentioning it that Michigan was your champ before that, but now they're getting all.
I'm curious with the Iona game. I know Iona has no shot, but I'm very curious at how Pitino coaches against Alabama.
I mean, the
I'm
15
really, really curious because Pitino is a very good tournament coach.
He's a very good tournament coach.
And that's why I'm curious if he could coach circles around Alabama.
I think Alabama's too talented.
especially
That's what it
offensively,
is,
which
but
Iona's strength is their offense, but
I want to see how close they stay.
yeah, I think you're going to get a more of a situation like you saw with the other 2-15 matchup, where maybe they could hang tough in the beginning in a shootout with like
Thanks,
Cleveland
Speedy, for
did.
the Colgate recommendation. By
That was
the
a
way. I really
14-3
appreciate that.
matchup, and they did hang tough for a while, but one bad run at the end of the first half, they 15-0
That's
run.
why Oral-B is better. So
Yes,
that's
that is why Oral-B is better.
Yes, I love the toothpaste.
The toothpaste puns were in full force on Twitter yesterday when that all
Speedy
happened.
likes the one with the SpongeBob one where like you put it in, it's like different colors.
I'd like to see Oral-B versus Colgate in the national championship.
There probably is a college called Oral-B University.
So before we go to break, what are our final 4 picks on the left side? I know Errol mentioned Iowa as one. That's my sleeper region. I had Oregon. And Josh, who did you have?
I had on my other sides, I had Gonzaga and I had Alabama.
Sorry, I think we all had Alabama on that side.
Yes, and I had Gonzaga. And the only reason why I picked Gonzaga, and I never picked number ones, but they had such an easy bracket. They face Iowa. And even then, they still have decides to stop Garza.
All right, one more before we go to break. Outside of Michigan, any other 1 seeds you think could lose in the second round?
Baylor.
Well,
Why are you
of
trying to
course.
steal mine?
Well, that's fine. But when Baylor knocks
had
off
enough-
Wisconsin
I had-
with
I had-
ease, you guys will be crying all the way.
I'm not the
if
Wisconsin fan. I'm just the one that's notoriously
Errol's
picking on
not-
Baylor.
I got Baylor winning the whole thing.
You're out of your mind.
No, I'm not.
They're so flawed, it's ridiculous, dude.
There's a lot of teams flawed in this whole
No,
tournament.
but dude, they play no defense.
So?
Their defense is horrible.
And we've seen teams win championships with playing no defense. How many times
Now
have we
they
seen
gotta
that?
play teams that have really good defense.
This is not the
That's
NBA.
their
This,
next opponent.
this is not the NBA. This is college basketball.
I know it is, but the next thing they're facing is going to be their toughest defensive team they faced all season.
Well, good luck to them because they're going to be killed. Burned.
You probably said the same thing when Kentucky played
Burn,
Wisconsin.
baby, burn.
Yeah,
That's
they
what's
beat
going to
them.
happen. I got Baylor.
I
The
had
whole
Baylor winning
thing.
too, but if Wisconsin wins, you won't hear me bragging about it. It's going to be you complaining about it.
It's going to be me telling you that Baylor national champions. That's what I'm going to say. And when they're raising up that trophy, I'm going to say, I told you so.
The Mickey Mouse March Madness
That's
champion.
right. The Mickey Mouse Oral-B Colgate champion, baby.
The matchup we wish we had.
Bring your underwears to the nearest store of Walmarts near you, and Speedy Petey will sign whatever underwear you brings. But bring the tighty whities. I mean, the tighty whities are the best.
Unless you're
give you
picking
an
Baylor
extra
to win a championship.
If it's dirty underwear, he'll sign that too.
Or Kansas. I will not sign anything for any Baylor, Kansas, or Virginia fans.
There
That's
you go.
about it.
So if you want your underwear signed, go to the closest Walmart near you. All right. That was our March Madness bracket. Very interesting. I know a lot of people are probably wondering why I picked Iowa to go to the national championship, but I like to take a little crazy pick, and I think Iowa's going to make a run. Offensively, they're fun to watch, so we'll see. When we come back, we are going to get into some baseball conversation. Next week is the starting of the MLB season. Will the Mets going to give Lindor the $330 million contract that we've been hearing? Some stories coming out that he might have it before the start of the season. When we come back, where do the Mets go in their rotation? Where do the Yankees go in their rotation? And is everybody excited that there will be fans in the stadiums? 20% of them in the beginning of the season. I will argue why it should be 50 when we come back here on the Weekend Crunch. Ho, 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 ho. Yes, I am back, ladies and gentlemen. I know everybody is crying or laughing or just happy that I'm here. As you guys know, this is the Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Mr. Joshua Silverberg, and the producer, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network. Brought to you by New York Sport Team Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I tried to be like Dracula there. It just didn't work. It was like a really sloppy Dracula. Download the Worldwide Sports Radio app. You got iOS, WWSRN, or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Guys, check out our website. We have a beautiful website. I did some changes on the website. It really sticks out. One of the nicest sports websites on the market. Check it out. www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Baseball season is right around the corner. We talked enough about Lindor going to the New York Mets and Carrasco with that trade. And Lindor has had a pretty good summer. And slowly but surely, there's stories coming out that Uncle Stevie might be opening his pockets before the season starts. Francisco Lindor might be offered a $330 million contract before the season. So all the Met fans with the outcries on bringing a $300 million player in, well, they're going to have one. He's right there, Francisco Lindor. So, Met fans, you should be happy that you have an owner that's willing to spend. But what I really wanted to get into is really the rotations on both teams. And I know, Josh, you like the fact that the Mets got depth in the offseason, bringing in Walker, bringing in Carrasco, even though he's out for a significant amount of time, might be out until May. What stands out to you guys as Met fans with this rotation moving forward as the season starts in less than a week?
Well, I think it's a different feel. We've seen every year, and it's going to sound funny, and I know Speedy's going to laugh when I say these names, but like you hear the Chris Flexens and the Corey Oswalds and the Rick Parcells and the Michael Walkers of the world of this pitching depth, and it was ridiculous, and it was a joke. But now in spring training, you're seeing guys pitching well and stepping up. The David Petersons, the Joey Lucchese's that they got from San Diego, the Jordan Yamamoto's from the Miami Marlins. You're actually getting bona fide major league starting pitchers who have had success in this league. And the cool thing is, all three of them are pitching really well. All three of them have said they want to be on this rotation. Going to AAA is not an option. They obviously have that chip on their shoulder where they want to make this team. And I like to see the hunger from these players to be able to have that opening spot. And like you said, Carlos Carrasco being out, they're saying before Memorial Day he's going to be back, which is fine. As long as these guys can pitch well, I mean, you know what you're going to get from Jacob deGrom. It's ridiculous. The guy's throwing 101 miles per hour. It's so loose how he just throws the ball. And Stroman's pitching well. Walker's pitching well. The bigger issue is the other guys are pitching well. And it's just a nice, different feel to see something like that for a change. And that's why the pitching depth is so important. You can never have enough starting pitching in this league, Errol. And you know this with the Yankees as well, because you never know when injuries can go down and things can happen. That's why it was important to get these guys that the Mets got. That's why it's important that the Yankees got with Kluber and the kid they got from Pittsburgh. You get as much as you can, stockpile it up, and keep it in your back pocket for when you really need it.
Taylor, who I think is going to be a big part of this rotation going into the season, is a guy that wanted to come to the Yankees, wanted to play with his best friend, Garrett Cole. They grew up together in the farm system with the Pittsburgh Pirates, two guys that were drafted very high in the first rounds by the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Yankees' rotation is pretty much set. We know that Garrett Cole is going to be the number one. Corey Kluber will be the number two. And slowly but surely, I do believe Domingo Germán will be the number three guy. He's had a great spring training. I know a lot of fans don't appreciate what he has done a year and a half ago. This guy has been suspended. He's been taught a lesson, and the Yankees are going to give him another chance. Now, if he does something stupid again this year, he might not be a Yankee very much longer, but I like what I've seen with Domingo Germán. I think he's got great stuff. He's got 4 quality pitches, and he's going to win the job. I know a lot of people like Garcia, and Garcia, even if he gets sent down for the beginning of the season, he's coming up. You're going to see a lot of Garcia. He's the future for the New York Yankees. He's only 21 years old. So I think that Domingo Germán, with the veteran player that he is, and the Yankees, believe it or not, have more depth than anybody thought they were going to have going into the season with their rotation. Taylor would be the number 4. Garrett Cole, Kluber, Domingo Germán. Then you have Taylor. Then you have Jordan Montgomery, Garcia being the other one. So you got 6 quality pitchers in your rotation. And Jordan Montgomery played as good as any of the Yankees pitchers in the playoffs last year. He played fantastic. So I think the Yankees rotation, it's there. What scares me right now is losing Britton for a significant amount of time. He might be out for about 2 or 3 months. I do believe the Yankees will figure things out. They have a lot of good young pitchers and a lot of good young arms in their farm system if they need to add an arm here or there. And
you could do is you could add one of their starters that don't make the rotation, put them in the bullpen.
I think
that's what I think the Mets are going to do.
Their rotation's pretty.
That? You can add arms and put them in the bullpen and have them pitch two innings, 3 innings, and shorten the games.
I was even looking at the Yankees roster, their depth chart, and Britton is a guy that a lot of people and a lot of Yankee fans are depending on. And whenever he does come back, and he will be back this year, losing him for a significant amount of time, and you're losing him to the All-Star break. That's a long, long time.
After the season.
I expect the Yankees to make a move. I think early in the season, especially if this bullpen gets a little tired. That's what worries me is I don't know if I trust, you know who I'm talking about, who a lot of the Yankee fans don't like him. I think the flaws is in Aaron Boone's management is really how he handles the bullpen. He's handled the bullpen very, very badly. It's harmed certain arms. Adam Ottavino, who's no longer a Yankee, he practically ran Adam Ottavino out of New York, and now he's playing for the Red Sox. So the Yankees added some good arms in the offseason, the Wilsons of the world, the O'Days of the world. I mean, you got 2 quality arms. You have a left-hander and a right-hander. You expect the Yankees to protect these guys, especially as dominant as they can be in the bullpen. 2 guys that have been in the All-Star game numerous amount of times. I expect the Yankees still to hold the fort until Britton comes back. The question is the health problems that the Yankees have had year in and year out, which has been a huge problem. Giancarlo Stanton have very, very good spring training. Judge, who lost a little bit of weight, his workout regimen is a little bit different. Hopefully he can stay healthy for a full season. He's going to give you about 40 home runs if he does. He's looked pretty good. Gleyber Torres, we expect a lot. DJ LeMahieu. This lineup is deadly. A lot of depth. The problem is the health reasons and the health problems, just like the Mets. The Mets have, believe it or not, have a lot of depth in that lineup. The question is, are they going to be able to stay healthy all season long, especially in the National League, which I think is a little bit more dangerous and has a lot more better teams than the American League. So Met fans, you're going to have to ride the wave early in the season because their schedule is a little hard in the beginning of the season, and it gets a little bit easier as the season progressively goes. So it's going to be an interesting year for all the New York teams, Josh.
It is, absolutely. And you brought up the Yankees. The Yankees do have a very deadly lineup. Top to bottom, it's the best power hitting lineup in baseball. You brought up some Yankee players. I'll bring up some Met guys that have played well this spring. I mean, Pete Alonso looks sensational this spring. He lost the weight. He got off social media. I think he took for granted last year after his rookie year. He was just going to come back and be who he was and just let it all hang out and pretty much do whatever he wanted.
You like it when he lets it all hang out.
He took it for granted. He took it for
granted. A
little
junk in his trunk. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
No,
Shut up. And for him, he learned a hard reality that you can't get that. He's had a great spring.
Hard junk in your trunk. I mean, this
Lindor, I think, will be signed. Conforto, I think, is going to get signed too. And that's a nice thing to have when you have a really rich owner. But even the James McCanns of the world are playing well. And Luis Guillorme is somebody that we don't talk enough about. Luis Guillorme is a phenomenal defensive player. He's a really good defensive player. He's one of the best defenders in baseball. But now his bat has come alive a little bit, which is a nice difference. And I love Brandon Nimmo. And I think Brandon Nimmo is having a very good spring. I think when they signed Pilar, I don't think Nimmo needs a fire to be lit under him. I think he has enough passion to be who he is. And you've seen how the players, I mean, he runs all over the place, but he's hitting really well this spring. He's playing much better defensively. Dom Smith, I think, is going to be Dom Smith. Jeff McNeil is struggling this spring, but he did last year too. And I always say this, I'd rather have my guy struggle in spring training than have him do it in the regular season. And I think Jeff McNeil is the guy I'm not worried about hitting wise.
Speedy, I want to ask you, I know you're a Met fan. What are you excited for going into the season for the New York Mets?
The young offensive depth, I think, is definitely one thing. The Mets have as good of offensive depth as we've ever seen before. And usually the Mets are so injury prone that they never have these guys, and they have these scrap heap guys off the bench, the Eric Campbells and guys like that. But now they actually have a good arsenal, good variety of guys. And and we saw a lot of those guys like Josh mentioned with Guillorme break out. He even broke out a little bit last year too, and I actually was never a big fan of his before that, but he proved me wrong, and now he's proven me wrong once again. Having a nice time off the bench. They have a lot of the prospects that Brody drafted that could be on this taxi squad type fringe roster that have played well this spring. The rotation, we know it's good. The bullpen's always going to be a question no matter what, because the Mets always bring in big names and they flop at times, but maybe second year for Luis Rojas will get that managed underway too.
So we've learned a couple of words before we go to break. Flop, junk in the trunk, hard. I mean, these words are all detrimental to the weekend crunch. So guys, if you want to learn the vocabulary, you could just speak to Speedy Petey and the great Little J himself, Joshua
The
Silverberg.
amount of words that you have said that neither one of us have ever even talked about when you speak are ridiculous.
Listen, I'm just trying to help out here. When we come back, Speedy.
Debate Wars.
Jesus, man, what the heck is that?
You gotta make Errol fall off his chair.
Debate Wars. I can't even do it with my throat, man. It's killing me. Anyways, when we come back,
don't try. You're in too much pain.
Well, that's true. I am in too much pain, especially sitting next to you and smelling all that stuff over there by you. Anyways, when we come back, Debate Wars here.
Now Speedy wants you to fall off his chair.
Here on the Weekend Crunch. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Joshua Silverberg. And on the board, as always, Mr. Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network. Brought to you by New York Sports Team Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Guys, download the app of the Worldwide Sports Radio Network by going to iOS, WWSRN, and Android Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'll have Speedy sell you his underwear, his used underwear, if you don't do it. So do that, and you will have the opportunity to check out some of the great digital profile shows, live digital shows. You got to check out our shows on our network. We have a great lineup of great content, so definitely check that out. Speedy, are you ready?
I am ready.
Here we go.
Debate Wars. All right, we're going to start this one with a dual one. So there were two notable 3-1 collapses in 2016. Which one was worse? The Golden State Warriors against the Cavaliers or the Cleveland Indians against the Chicago Cubs?
That's a good one.
That's a very good one. I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors. They had that series, and if Draymond Green doesn't get suspended because of the stupidity that he caused, I think that series would have been over. But what that did was that lit a fire on Kyrie Irving and LeBron James. And LeBron James, they took advantage of the situation. They said, okay, Draymond's going to be out. This is a time for us to figure this thing out. And that's why I'm going to say the Golden State Warriors are the reason that the 3-1 collapse is the one that everybody in the country always goes back to.
I think it's the collapse of the Cleveland Indians, being that both teams, one of the teams haven't won a championship in over 100 years, the other team over 60, 67 years, almost 70 years. I think whoever would have collapsed in that series, being that the Indians haven't won a championship that long, and they still haven't won a championship, I think the fact of the years and the total of years, the Golden State Warriors won a championship before that collapse. I think this was worse. I think the fact that the Indians had a chance to win and they completely collapsed. So I'm going to say the Cleveland Indians.
Well, if you're a fan of a Cleveland team, it was an up and a down in that one.
I think most Cleveland fans will still take the up for the Cavs in that instance. All right, who will be a better tight end at the end of their career, Travis Kelce or Rob Gronkowski?
Hunter Henry. It's going to be Gronk. I think just because of the numbers alone and all the Super Bowls that he was a part of with New England. And I think he's just a more well-known name out there that people know of. Listen, Travis Kelce is no slouch. They're both going to be unbelievable players. They're both first ballot, in my opinion, Hall of Famers. But in my eyes, I see it's Gronk.
It's Travis Kelce. I think he's the better all-around player. Gronkowski, yes, he's won all those titles. Yes, he played with the greatest or one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Tom Brady. I look at Travis Kelce and what he has done with the Kansas City Chiefs with two different quarterbacks. And Travis Kelce is still a young man. He still has a lot of years left. He could play another 5 years. And Travis Kelce hasn't missed a beat. Gronkowski has, and you can see he's missed a beat. So I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. I think by the time Kelce's done with his career, he's going to have better numbers than Gronk. So I'm going to go with Travis Kelce.
Better goaltender so far in their career, Braden Holtby or Sergei Bobrovsky?
I'll go with Holtby due to the fact that he did help win a Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals. Listen, Bobrovsky's had some unbelievable years, but not on the consistent basis. Holtby had a very good stretch of a good 4 or 5 year stretch where he was one of the top goaltenders in the league. Bobrovsky did have that Vezina run with Columbus, but I'm going to go with Holtby on that one.
I'm going to go with Bobrovsky, and I'll tell you why. Because Bobrovsky has done it more consistent than Holtby has. Yes,
I
Holtby.
think the opposite. I think Holtby's been more consistent.
I don't think so. Holtby was very consistent for 4 years, and then he fell off. And if you look at his last 2 years, they've been bad.
What about Bobrovsky, though?
Bobrovsky's been consistent. I mean, he's not playing for the same team. He plays for the Florida Panthers now. And
he's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing better than Holtby is. I'm going to go with Bobrovsky because if you look at the consistency and the numbers will show you that Bobrovsky's had a better career than Brendan Holtby. So I'm going to go with Bobrovsky.
Better contact hitter, Wade Boggs or Ichiro?
I'll go with Ichiro. Ichiro did it year after year after year. And what was more impressive was Boggs did it for a very long time, but Ichiro came on the scene very quick and took charge in the league. And the difference, too, is came from Japan, which I think is an even more testament to him to be able to get himself accumulated with the league, get himself with the culture. So I'm going to go Ichiro.
I'm going to go with Ichiro because he had 3,000 hits in probably one of the fastest of all time. And Ichiro would have had 4,000 hits if he counted the time that he was over there in Japan. Ichiro is one of the best contact hitters of all time. Fantastic Samaritan for the major leagues. He did a lot of things for the MLB, and now he's bringing players are coming from Japan because of Ichiro Suzuki. So I'm going to go with Ichiro.
You mean not because of Hideo Nomo?
No, him and Matsui.
You have to give some to Nomo.
Godzilla.
Nomo did come over and was a big part of that.
Oh, God. Noma had 2 good years.
He did, but he was one of the first to come over.
Yeah.
Transcendent.
And he had some success.
Yeah, 2
Made
years.
it more easier for those guys to say, okay, if he can do it, then clearly we can figure it out then.
All right, last time I had a question with this theme, it was pretty crazy. But this time it's in basketball. So better defender at their position, Gary Payton or Scottie Pippen?
I got to go with Scottie Pippen. After I saw the special, The Last Dance, it really gave an insight into the locker room and everything like that Scottie Pippen brought. His defensive tenacity was unbelievable. Pippen did it on such a consistent basis every year, and he did it sometimes when he was hurt. So I'm going to go with Scottie Pippen on that one.
Oh, it's definitely Scottie Pippen. First of all, Scottie Pippen is a top 50 player of all time. Some people wouldn't even, Bill Simmons didn't even put him in his top 50, but he is a top 50 player because of his defense. Scottie Pippen wasn't the best defensive player on the team. Michael Jordan was, but when Michael Jordan wasn't in the roster, who was defending the best offensive player on the team? It was Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen shut down so many great players in the time that I thought basketball was at its best, with guys like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Olajuwon, some of the greatest players we've seen
You didn't
in
mention
basketball.
Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, well, Patrick Ewing, and
So disappointed in you.
he didn't defend Patrick Ewing. Either did Michael
No,
Jordan.
but I'm sure there were moments when he did.
No, he didn't. He never defended Patrick
What,
Ewing.
Horace Grant did?
No, Bill Cartwright did.
Horace Grant did.
Yeah, there was a lot of other players that did. Longley, Rodman, those are the guys that defended Patrick Ewing. But I'm going to go with Scottie. Scottie was the better defender.
All right, better NHL coach. Obviously, one's still coaching right now, but it's probably going to be let go by his team at the end of the year. John Tortorella or Ken Hitchcock?
I'm going to go with Torts. He's done it with older veterans where he's won, and he's done it with very young teams and a young nucleus. And he's produced and he's won. He's done it in certain situations that aren't the easiest. I'm not going to count the Vancouver one. I mean, that was just a mitigated disaster. Ken Hitchcock was a good coach, very good coach, but John Tortorella is one of the best coaches that I've ever seen as a fan.
Ken Hitchcock has been very successful in the NHL, especially when he went to Dallas. He's been all over the place. He's coached 3 or 4 NHL teams and been there for a very, very long time. He's been to Stanley Cups. He's a great coach. But John Tortorella, his attitude, his personality, everything about his persona, he's just a different type of talented personality behind the bench. And I just think what he drives and how he drives the players, and he doesn't give a crap who you are. He doesn't care if you're a GM. He doesn't care if you're an owner. He doesn't care if you're a player. If you do something stupid, he's going to make you, and he's going to let you know. So, John
a media
Tortorella.
reporter.
Yeah, I like John Tortorella.
All right, one more. Better running back, LaDainian Tomlinson or Curtis Martin?
It's going to be so biased on my part. I'm going to say Curtis Martin. He's the reason I am a Jet fan, so I blame him. 1, I grew up watching Curtis Martin, and watching him was so special to watch every Sunday and whenever they played. He was a guy that when you look at him, how elusive he was, his runs were so good as well. Look at his numbers throughout all of his years. It was incredible how consistent. Don't get me wrong, they're both the tops in their position. So if it was anybody else, I would have said Tomlinson, but I am being biased, so I'm going to say Curtis Martin.
I think it's Curtis Martin, and I'm not being biased. I think LaDainian Tomlinson had a sensational career. He was fantastic with the San Diego Chargers. When he went to the Jets, the 2 or 3 years that he was there, he was fantastic. He had a fantastic career.
It was a big part of them going to the AFC Championship.
But Curtis Martin, there's something special about him. When you look at consistency, you think of two players. You think of Barry Sanders, and you think of Curtis Martin. Curtis Martin, he had 10 straight seasons with 1,000 or more yards. His 11th year, he had 800 or 890 yards. It was his first year. His last year was his only year where he didn't have over 1,000 yards. He was fantastic. He was the best player on the Jets. He should have won the MVP when Peyton Manning won the MVP when he had 1,500 yards. He was the heart and soul of the New York Jets organization. And when Bill Parcells brought him here, when he came to the Jets, he knew what he was bringing there. He was bringing a special talent, a special leader. And I met him twice and interviewed him with all the concussions. Curtis Martin was one of the nicest.
You ever meet Tomlinson?
Who? LaDainian? I've never met LaDainian Tomlinson, but I heard he's a nice guy too. But Curtis Martin, I think he's the better all-around player, and I think people forget how elusive he was. So it's Cujo.
Again with the Cujo.
By the way,
I know what you're going to say. You were the only one that called him that.
Yes,
I know.
yes.
I just think when I hear Cujo, I think of Curtis Joseph.
Well, that's another thing too. Curtis Joseph, yes. Who has the same birthday as me, by the way. Anyways.
Super Jones.
Yes, that is it for Debate Wars. I will say this. The Debate War questions are getting even better and better every single week. Speedy really gets you, and he really throws some curveballs at us when it comes to these Debate Wars. And you know what? For all the fans that listen and hear the Debate Wars, when you sit and you listen to our arguments and really go back and forth and banter about this, I'm sure you guys have your own thoughts on what you would debate and what you would argue, and that's why they're so interesting when you go back and forth and argue these questions. So when we come back, Speedy, what do we got?
Crunch time!
He gets so excited.
I know. He loves it. He loves it.
And
Anyways,
March Madness.
Yes, March Madness is his baby. You know, he likes to cradle that one, and cradle other things. Anyways, when we come back, crunch time here on the Weekend Crunch. We are back. As you know, this is the Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Errol Marks. My co-host, Joshua Silverberg. And on the board, as always, DJ Rick Speed. Only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network, brought to you by New York Sports E-Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. By the way, guys, go to iOS, which is Apple, and you put in the search bar WWSRN, or Android when you go to the Play Store, and you put in Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Check out our articles, our stories, everything that we do, our live shows on the network. And we have such a great app for all the fans to check out. And go and check out our website, WorldwideSportsRadio.com. What were you going to say over there, Josh?
I was going to say the same thing. It's organized. It's unbelievable. It's so different from all the other websites that are out there. I can tell you that right now.
Well,
so
thank you, Josh.
Sure.
I want to beat you with this mic right now, and maybe Speedy will do the same.
And he tells me to watch my words.
I'm trying to spit out the word. I'm trying.
Tongue twister for you. It's okay.
You know what? I like to throw curveballs at you, too. No, I'm more of a change-up guy, by the way. So,
are you?
Yes, I'm more of a change-up guy.
Just give me a straight fastball. I could hit it.
Well, you'll probably get decked if you want me to throw a straight fastball at you,
Well, I mean, I would hope that you don't throw it like Rick Ankiel does. And that'd be awesome. That'd be great.
He became a pretty good hitter, so there you go.
For 2 years.
I mean, what, 10? Would you say pretty? I mean, that's being generous. 210 hitter. It's very generous.
210 is
It was good for 2 years. It was a nice comeback story, but
yeah, I guess. Anyways, as you guys know, we do this for the final segment of the show.
crunch time.
Oh my.
It's time for Crunch Time.
Read the time. Gotta see the pitch.
So we'll start this week of crunch time in college basketball. Oral Roberts, the 15 seed, will win another round in the NCAA tournament. They're playing against Florida in the round of 32.
Oh, I'm buying that. They have all this confidence right now, and Florida almost lost today to Virginia Tech. Now, look, Florida's a 10 seed.
7.
Or Roberts just beat a 2 seed. I mean, you have to have confidence in that, don't you? That they're going to go into their next game and,
Nope.
and they're riding high right now.
Not a chance.
It's like Florida Gulf Coast all
Why?
over
Because
again.
Florida didn't have a good game. You're going to strike out. You're going to go against a team that's going to obviously match up better than the other team. So I think that going into this particular game, I think Florida matches up very, very well against them. I don't think they stand a chance. I think Florida will probably win by 9 or 10 points. I got Florida in the game. I think Florida will move on.
We didn't go over our NIT bracket.
Oh, you made an NIT bracket?
No, I'm just kidding.
Colorado State will win it all, or Boise State. One of those. I told you I like the Mountain West. All
Does
right.
the Mountain West like you?
I don't know. Tough to tell. I've never actually been that far west. All right, buy or sell. The Rangers, after scoring 9 goals on Wednesday night, will somebody top that this season? Buy or sell? We'll see a team score 10.
If they play Philadelphia.
Maybe.
Yeah, I was just gonna say if you play the
Or Buffalo.
that's a tough sell. I mean, that goaltending was so bad. I mean, at one point the Rangers had 8 goals and the Flyers had 8 saves. I mean, it was so bad. It was so bad.
It was terrible.
I'm gonna sell that one. That's a tough ask, so I'll sell it.
If there was a Pee Wee hockey game on the NHL,
Well, it looked like one the other night.
that goaltending was as bad as we've ever seen it. So I cannot see 9 goals going in against another team, except maybe Philadelphia again if they do that. So I'm going to say no.
It's in the playoffs.
It's never going to happen again.
Again, don't rule out Buffalo. They've done so many bad things lately. You never know. All right, buy or sell. One of the Chiefs' recently cut starting tackles, either Eric Fisher or Mitchell Schwartz, will end up in New York with the Giants or Jets.
I'm gonna sell that. I've heard Schwartz is even leading towards retirement. The problem with Fisher is he's coming off a very severe injury. And I think teams are going to be a little wary of that, especially an offensive lineman that's coming off something like that. I'm going to sell it. I think Joe Douglas is going to try to build this thing through the draft. Trey Turner is still sitting out there, just FYI to Joe D. The Giants, I know Speedy wants to replace Zeitler, and I get it, but I don't think it's going to happen, so I'm going to sell that.
I am going to sell that. I can't see Joe Douglas doing that. I think Joe Douglas will build around a draft. I think the last move they're going to try to make is the Neal move. If that happens, they will be done because Neal's going to get at least $40-something million.
They still need a corner, though, Errol. They might even try to get.
They'll draft a corner. They'll draft a corner.
They really like Kawan Williams, though.
I don't think Williams is going to be there, especially if if they bring Neal in. Neal's going to demand at least $40 million. There's no way. And you want to save at least $30 million for next year. If you bring in Neal, you're only going to have like $29-30 million next year. Yes, you're going to have people off the roster. Maybe C.J. Mosley will get traded.
They could just cut Mosley after this year.
They're not cutting Mosley. If Mosley has a good season, they're not cutting him.
Yeah.
Especially with that roster.
They do
Listen,
need a slot-
you
they
bring
need
you
a
bring
slot
in
corner.
Neal, you're definitely a playoff team.
They need a slot cornerstone. That's maybe bring back Brian Poole.
That's
maybe
Joyner's role, I would imagine.
Yeah, but I know they love Kawan Williams though.
Well, I'm going to say no on that one.
Buy or sell. 3 of the top 5 teams in the American League from last season will miss the playoffs. That was the Rays, Athletics, the Twins, the Yankees, and the Indians.
I'll sell it. I think Oakland's going to win the West. The Rays, I think, will get in the wild card. Twins, I think they could be a wild card team too. I don't know. I'll sell it. I'm not confident in it. I think baseball's such a wonky thing to predict in itself, so I'll sell it.
I'm going to buy it. I think 4 out of these 5 teams are not going to make it. I don't see the Rays making it. I think they've lost a significant amount this offseason. The Athletics could make it. They always make it. They always find a way, and they always lose in the first round. So
You sleep on the Rays, though,
the
man.
Yankees will make it. They're definitely going to make it. Out of all those teams, the Yankees will make it. They're too good of a team. Unless they fight too much injuries, the Yankees will make it. The other teams, I'm not going to bet on it. The Cleveland Indians, look what they gave up. There's no way they're making the playoffs.
Well, they're trying Ahmed Rosario in center field, and he
Well, good luck on that.
He gave up 600 runs in his first starting.
Well,
season,
thank
so
you
that
on
didn't
that.
go
And as far as the Twins are concerned, the Twins are a hot and cold team. You never know what you're going to get with them.
They got a
so-
great lineup, though.
Well, good for them. They have a terrible pitching staff.
Their pitching staff isn't really as bad. I mean, with Barrios leading it, and their bullpen is still very good.
Their bullpen's good, but they also lost May, so that's going to affect them.
They'll be fine. Minnesota will be fine.
Minnesota's not making the playoffs.
Buy or sell. The Warriors will make a splash for a star or superstar player in a trade that could involve their number 2 overall pick, James Wiseman.
I'm going to buy that. I think it'd be very stupid. I think what they're going to try to do is get another guy here, reset. They're going to make the playoffs. And then when Klay Thompson comes back, they'll have this big 4, whatever they have, whoever they get as a
Big
player.
5, actually. They'll have Wiggins there. They bring in Bradley Beal. You have
Wiggins will probably be in the
Steph,
trade.
Draymond Green, big five.
I'm not a Wiggins guy.
Wiggins is good, man. He's an all-around great player. He averages almost 20 points a game. Good defender, good wing defender. He's a good player.
So my guess is you're buying this.
I'm buying it.
All right, buy or sell. The Islanders will make a trade for Taylor Hall.
I brought that up, I think, on the show last week.
Yeah.
To you, Speedy. And I brought that up to you early in the week, Arrow. I said I think they will try to do everything they can to make it work. I'm going to sell it for now because I want to see how Lou tries to divvy up the salary, because Hall is making a lot of money on this one-year deal. If he's there, I think the Islanders have to be in on it. They have to. They got to replace Anders Lee. I think that's a big loss for them. They have to replace that scoring. And the Islanders can't afford to lose any offensive weapons. They need all of them that they can have. They have the goaltending. They have the defense. They need one more offensive weapon. Would Hall be the perfect guy? Of course he would. But, you're hearing Kyle Palmieri's name out there as well. So we will see where that lands. I think Palmieri is a better shot than Hall because of the salary. So I'm going to sell that for now, but it could be a buy, definitely.
I'm going to buy it. I think Hall is definitely on their radar. It's all going to be about the contract. I mean, the money in the contract for the one-year deal, because he's making a lot of money. So
the Islanders just don't have the salary cap.
No, but next year they will. I know it's this year, but they'll probably wiggle it and figure out how it could fit. So.
Do you trust him, though?
No, but it's only a one-year deal. So next year they're going to have money. And I've been hearing that they're trying somehow to move Andrew Ladd's contract. So
I wonder what they would have to give up for Hall.
Probably a third-round draft pick.
Oh, they would have to give up more.
No. It's 1 year. It's a one-year deal. No.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Buffalo's out. Buffalo's not making the playoffs.
But Pajot was also expiring.
No, hold on. First of all, Pajot is a lot younger. Pajot is a guy that I think the Islanders knew they were going to re-sign. They're not going to re-sign Taylor Hall. They're going to be looking at guys like Hoffman next year, guys like that are going to be available in free agency where they can overspend for those guys. Hall will not be an Islander next year. Third-round draft pick, they'll get a guy like Hall. They're not going to have to give up much. It's a one-year deal.
All right, one more. We saw 3 overtime games on Friday, 2 of which led to upsets. We will see 3 overtime games in the Sunday slate of March Madness, the first day of the round of 32.
I'm going to sell that. I think overtime in March Madness is very rare. You don't see it too much. You see a lot of buzzer beaters. So I'm going to sell it for now. This is where you start to really, as they say, the men to the boys, when you kind of start seeing that into this round. You get rid of the other one, so I'm going to sell that for now.
I'm going to sell it. I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe 1 or 2. I don't see 3. I think that March Madness is so fun to watch because you don't know what to expect, and then you'll see something that you'll have 5 or 6 overtime games. But I don't think this year is one of those years where you're going to see that many overtime games in the round of 2. Well, the second round. What are you laughing at? What are you giggling at over there?
Just you.
What can I say? I'm glad.
The round of 2.
The round of 2. The second round. I'm a very tired person. And being that we had to wait for the Islander game to be over, and we're talking about Taylor Hall possibly being traded to the Islanders, hopefully Mr. Lou will figure this out. I think Lou will. I think he will make the best move possible to solidify this team and give them another scorer, knowing that they're going to make the playoffs. And they're going to make a run. I mean, they're still a very talented team. They have the defense. They have the goaltending to win. And they have the coach. So they need that guy that can put the puck in the net and help out maybe a Barzell on that line. I don't think resting on a young kid like Oliver Wahlstrom or even a Kiefer Bellows is going to be enough to move forward with this team. I think
I keep saying watch out for Kyle Palmieri's name.
We'll see. I think it's going to be very, very interesting on what Lou does. And being that there's only a couple weeks left until the trade deadline, it's right around the corner. So Lou's going to have to do something. So
Sweet Lou.
Sweetie baby Lou. Speedy with Blue. Blue with Lou. And Speedy with Lou. Lou and Blue. Who? You like that?
You've done better.
I'll spin it. Wreck it. Anyways, that's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody had a great time. Happy to be back with these 2 interesting fellows or fellows.
Yeah, we're interesting.
Or feller.
God only knows what you are.
What, me?
Yes.
What's wrong with me?
You say we're interesting, and you're past interesting.
I'm Mr. Wonderful. Okay, you can call me Mr. Wonderful. And
speak for yourself.
or Mr. Fantastic. But I'm happy to be back, guys.
Whatever makes you sleep at night.
Well, I haven't been
God
sleeping.
only knows you need the sleep.
Yeah,
so
I
whatever
haven't been
helps you sleep
sleeping.
at night, if that's what makes you go to bed, then that's fine.
Well, I haven't been sleeping. I can't even sleep on my bed because of my neck. So there you go. I got to sleep on a recliner. So that's why I haven't been sleeping. But I'm happy to be back, guys. I'm looking forward to next week and the show and really where we're going. And, guys, check out our network and our website. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Go to our app, iOS, WWSRN, Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Happy to be back. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. A lot of banter, a lot of craziness, and, of course, I always win. Until next week, this is Errol Marks, Joshua Silverberg, and Mr. Speedy Petey saying good night, and we'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.